PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Holy Snokes here on the PLD Projects Network. I am your host, PLD, and with me, as always, my trusty sidekick, just like Chewbacca on the Falcon. He's ready to punch it. How are you doing, Matty?
I am definitely ready to punch it. I'm very ready to punch this cold that I've had for the last couple of days in the face. It's not great. Whenever I don't get like ill often, but whenever I do, I am such a wuss about it.
It makes sense. I found the toughest guys in the world, the toughest guys I know, when they get sick, they turn into a little baby.
Yeah. And even it's just like a common cold, like the sniffles, and I'm immediately just like, oh, I don't want to do anything.
That's fair. That's a fair statement to make. I get that way too. My wife would tell you that the man cold, man flu thing is an absolute real thing. They're pushing out babies, and I'm crying over a little sniffle. So my head hurts. Yeah, it is what it is. Shut up. Get up. Do your stuff. All right. Fine. Well, I love talking Star Wars with you, Matty. I know you love talking Star Wars with me. Let's get right into it. We have an episode of the Bad Batch to talk about, of course. We got the episode called Retrieval, which was part two of the latest effort into the Bad Batch. A surprising part two. I remember watching last week, episode 9 of the second season. We're like, this is ending in a cliffhanger of sorts. We're going to go into part 2. Okay. All right. Let's do it. But before that, we do have some news bits we're going to talk about. We try to do some news bits every week that we get to happen in between episodes of Holy Snokes. And I'll say it right now. We get our news from StarWarsNewsNet.com. They're always one of the best out there as far as collecting all the news, because they always collect the news in great fashion. They always let you know whether something is factual, speculation, whether it should be a rumor. They always kind of let you
whether it's absolute horseshit.
That's too. Usually if it's that bad, they don't even bother reporting it, which is fine. Because as we know in the Star Wars world, it's just as important to know where the information came from as to what the actual information is. Too often we find
imagine if the plans had come, the plans for the Death Star had come from Hondo and Aka.
You better check those things out 3 times, 4 times over. Exactly. Oftentimes, so many times we've been led astray, and all of a sudden things are announced like they were never announced. It was just kind of a leak or something. You never trust that stuff. You never trust anything until you know, but just hold it in your hands. So without further ado, we do have some talk coming. Obviously, Celebration now a few weeks away. I know you're getting excited about that. I'm excited about the couch convention. I don't know if we're going to get streams. Like last time, we definitely did not get streams of these panels. I'm hoping we can get a little bit this time, or maybe some information on that. I don't know. Either way, I got an inside man, and he'll be reporting live from the Celebration feed at some point, and hopefully your phone is nice and charged. You can get some good reports.
Yeah, I would say keep an eye on our Instagram page at Holy Snokes Pod on Instagram. I'll be doing like live stories, live reaction stuff on there a lot, and obviously be uploading it to the channel as well. But that would be the best place to see any of our like content on the day. Will probably be over there on the IG.
Instagram, definitely doing it live. I will get them up as soon as I can, and hopefully we can coordinate. Maybe we can get some guest spots from people, some quick interviews.
I'll get them.
Maybe I'll even go live during some certain points of the day. I took some time off from work so I could be here, and let's see what happens. It should be a lot of fun. As to what we're going to see, that is the question. Before we get to that part, which is the first article of news, I did hear there's a rumor, not rumor necessarily, a leak in an email, whatever, a speculation of an email, that for the celebration is not going to happen next year. The next celebration will be 2025. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay. I think it's okay not to have one every year. It gives us time to really ramp up the news and everything else. But I'm looking forward to 2025 because it'll probably be back in my neck of the woods, so I can actually probably attend this year. London would end up being a little bit too far out of my.
No, move it to the other side of London. We've had it, and we've now got it in South London. Move it to like West London or East London. Just
do me a favor. Do my wallet a favor. New York City. Let's just do it. New York City.
I see a lot of people asking for Orlando, which I wouldn't be mad at because that is Orlando is on the East Coast, right? I'm not crazy.
You are correct. Yes,
I sucked at geography.
Orlando's down in Florida on the east coast, so I wouldn't mind Orlando. That's actually, I mean, I wouldn't because if I'm going to go to next year's celebration in 2025, I've only been to one celebration in my life, and that was in Orlando. So I mean, part of me would like to have a different city just for that purpose, but you know what? If it is, I'm not going to complain because I'm definitely going to go next year. Meet up with you, meet up with all the Star Wars family that we've made over the past couple of years. And what a year to do. I mean, if everything goes right, we'll be looking forward to a movie coming out in December at that point. So that should be a fun pound. And it's also 10th year anniversary of Force Awakens, 20th anniversary for Revenge of the Sith. A lot of things, a lot of different ideas flowing in my head about that. But that'll
be crazy, the 20th year anniversary for Revenge of the Sith, because when Hayden's photo ops went up for London celebration, they were gone like that. Mm-hmm. I think he's like one of 2 or 3 people that sold out, and his were gone. Even Ewan isn't sold out. But Hayden is, and it just makes my heart so happy that like he is getting this amount of love.
Yeah, he's getting his due finally after a few years of, shall we say, negative connotations. But that's 2025. We still got 2023 to deal with here. Interesting, from a news report from Star Wars Newsnet reporting via the Hollywood Reporter, they reiterated that Star Wars film announcements are going to be happening at Celebration. They reiterated that Taika Waititi is still developing his project, which we haven't heard a damn thing about since like the initial leak or that he was possibly doing something. And we also reiterated the fact that they're ramping up Star Wars while they slow down Marvel. We mentioned that last week. Of course, Bob Iger made that statement pretty clear that he wanted to, as far as Kevin Feige goes, Kevin Feige's wanted to be slowing down Marvel for a bit. Bob Chapek seemed to refuse, but Bob Iger seems to say, yes, we should be slowing down Marvel because we want to make sure we have both quantity and quality. Obviously, the effects work has gotten a little off key in Marvel because they're forcing them to do too much work too quickly on a basis. That's hopefully going to change. A little slow down, a little breath in between, give ourselves a chance to breathe. But Star Wars can have a chance to kind of ramp up in its place a little bit because we haven't had a movie since 2019. We can get some movie development in the news. We can get some TV series going again. I think it's going to be a good time for Star Wars. So at this point, Jeff Snyder, of course, I want to give credit where credit's due. Jeff Snyder's been good on the hot mic talking about Lucasfilm's plan. He stated that there is a solid 5-year plan in place by Lucasfilm. A 5-year plan in place. It might be announced at Celebration. It might not be. They might only announce a part of it. But the fact that they do have a 5-year plan in place makes me excited because I want to see them hammer down these details. Let's see what we're doing. Let's put this plan in action. And they're determined specifically for December of 2025 to be that first Star Wars release since 2019 in the theaters. Right now, the film that seems to be on track to hit that release date is probably the Damon Lindelof co-written one, which will be directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. It's been developing for over a year now, supposedly, and might even be shooting this year. There's also speculation that Yahya Abdul-Mateen II is involved as the male lead, and also that the story is post-Rise of Skywalker, and is reportedly expected to launch a new era in Star Wars films. So that's a lot of interesting points being made there. There are other potential things we've heard about. I'm going to put this out to you in a second, but I will say we have, if we think about it, things that have been mentioned over the years, and we don't know what they are. We got Lindelof, Taika Waititi, Kevin Feige's film, Sean Levy has a film, and then, of course, somewhere in the background, there's the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron. It's not over, as Patty Jenkins says. I kind of think we'll believe that when we see it, but out of those 5, Out of those 5, and I think that's the only 5. Is there any other ones that you can remember off the top of your head that are in possible conversation at this point that haven't been debunked at this point? I know the Benioff Weiss one are gone.
Yeah, that one definitely.
Definitely gone. That's actually, they said it's gone. A couple other ones that have been kind of like in and out. But out of those 5, I want you to give me the odds are that we'll get any information at all about those 5 at Celebration.
Okay, if I'm gonna do this in like odds,
Yes.
Rogue Squadron, 100-1. Levy's 75. Tyker's 50-60. Damon Lindelof's 2-1. I think we will get something from the more, like, as I said when we first talked about it, where there's smoke, there is fire.
Right.
And this celebration in London is looking to be absolutely massive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 4-day event, so there's going to be there's something that is going to be announced. I firmly believe that they are pulling out every stop for this one, which is making me think that something is being announced, and I am willing to bet the house that it is Lindelof.
I would agree with you 100% that Lindelof, for me, is that if you read the tea leaves, that's the one that's going to be announced for 2025. As far as other ones go, we have on the slate, the slate, we had one in 2027 and 2029 as well. Those are every 2 years. That's what we've heard. Like, dates have been held, untitled - Star Wars film. I think it's a 2-1 is even almost too low for Lindelof movie being 2025 at this point. I think it's almost locked in stone. I think that's what we're going to be getting. I think you're going to see Damon Lindelof. You're going to see Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. I think you're going to see Yahya Abdul-Mateen walk out on that stage, confirm it, maybe even confirm the title, and give us a little bit of a synopsis idea, like a pitch.
I hope so, because I don't just want here's Damon Lindelof, here's Yahya. Like, we know that.
Yeah,
we've been knowing that. Like,
right.
Give us some concrete stuff.
I think they know we know. I think they know, they understand the fans' perspective at this point. This has happened too often with something. I think they got to give us some solid information. And if it is as far off as we think, maybe we get some concept art. Maybe there's something to that effect. I don't know if it started shooting yet. I haven't heard anything to that nature. I suppose maybe going to start this year potentially. But maybe some concept art, maybe some pre-production work, something like that. Maybe even a sizzle reel of pre-production stuff, something to that effect. I think we're going to get something to say, yes, this is in production. This is not just this is in production, starting now.
Yeah, I mean, they did it with Skeleton Crew, which is something that we didn't even have any idea that was going on.
Right.
They just showed up with John Watts and were like, hey, here's this. Here's John Watts. And here's the cast of everything that he's doing. It's just like, whoa, what is this?
Right, exactly. So that's, I agree with you on that. As far as the other 4, I would say, honestly, between Waititi, Feige, Levy, and Jenkins, I think Levy has an outside chance of being the 2027 one. I wouldn't be surprised if they inked a deal with them and we get some small information on that. Like maybe just the confirmation that this is the one we're working on for 2027, potentially the production on that. Not much more than that, but I think that's it. I think Waititi is going to be, I think he's very busy. I think they're not going to mention his name at all.
I think him and Feige's one is going to be the same.
I think I have always pitched that as well, although I will say the leaks that we've heard do dispute that, because Waititi was writing his own with, I forget who, one of his Oscar people, whereas Feige had the other guy who's writing Secret Wars. I can't. I'm so bad.
It's the guy that wrote Loki, right?
Correct. Michael Waldron. Michael Waldron, I think it was. Yes. So that's why it seems to be different properties. I initially pitched, well, Waititi and Feige working together makes sense to me. That Feige produced, Feige writes and directs. But if Feige has Waldron writing it for him, it seems to be separate. However, Feige and Waldron are both a little busy right now. They're working on Avengers.
But if they're going to be taking a step back from Marvel, that 2029 one.
That could be. So you could, but this is why I don't think we see anything about this at this celebration. No. That could be a 2025 celebration. Mm-hmm. So that's why Feige, I like Feige, we don't hear anything about. I don't think we hear anything about Waititi, and I still don't think we hear anything about Jenkins, unfortunately. Unless it's a tidbit. I think at best if it was to happen, which I'm still kind of questioning whether it's going to happen at all. If it's going to happen, maybe it's just yes, we took a step back. We are now going to ramp a little bit up with it potentially if they decide to do that. But again, I don't think we ever see that one, unfortunately, at this point. That's my own personal guess on this. But Lindelof for sure, especially if we're getting movie announcements, it's Lindelof for sure. I would bet Levy would be the other one we talk about. So
yeah. I just like how Bob Iger has just come in and he's just been like, right, enough treading water, get to work. Like you've just been putting out TV shows and you've just been announcing things and pulling back on them for too long. Get to work on a movie.
It just makes sense because Disney obviously has had issues. As they said, they have to cut costs and they have to maximize more profits. They've had a little bit of a decline in some things. A Star Wars movie is almost guaranteed to be near $1 billion. I mean, take Solo out of it. Solo was kind of a perfect storm for a bad situation. But generally speaking, a Star Wars film will probably net you close to $1 billion, and you're leaving that just to sit there and rot. You have the IP, you need money, you do it. That's just a no-brainer to me. I think right now, if you announce a Lindelof movie coming in 2025, you're going to get close to $1 billion movie, even just by that. So that's where I sit on that. I think that's where we both sit on that. Good work in Jeff Snyder with his. I hope he is correct with the 5-year plan. I hope he's correct. We're going to get some announcement in London.
I mean, he's normally not wrong, is he?
He's done pretty good.
Snyder is pretty damn good at his job.
He really is. He really is good at his job. Yes, some strong opinions I don't necessarily agree with at times. And he has some strong. He's not a big Star Wars guy or anything like that anyway, but I got to give credit where credit due. He knows what he's done. So hopefully that's the case and Celebration will be good. I think some more news we're going to get at Celebration, or these other 2 bits of news I want to talk about. There was one report that had talking about the Mandalorian cast and crew. We're talking Grogu, cloning, and having fun on the set. There's a new TV spot released. Did you watch the TV spot?
I have not. I do not watch TV spots because they give too damn much away this close to the show.
Yeah, I wish I could read it for you. I'm not watching them either. I watch the trailers. I will watch the trailer when they come out. I can't stop it. But as far as when they're like the days away, I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'll wait. So I'm agreeing with you there.
We're literally a week away.
Exactly. This article, though, the most important part of this article I found was that Jon Favreau has already confirmed he has already written season 4 for The Mandalorian. Done. It's already written.
Yeah.
Now, I hear that and I get excited because that means we have a plan in place. That means, not that we didn't have a plan in place before. I think Favreau and Filoni have always known where this is going. I think this is kind of a new. I don't think this is a new thing. I think from the get-go they had an end game in mind. I think just like Filoni had the Siege of Mandalore in mind for Clone Wars, I think there was an end game in place a long time ago. But the fact that he's already written it, I mean, this could be ready to go. I mean, where he's recording, they can film it soon if they need to, as far as schedule, as long as they get the schedules worked out, and we can get it sooner than later. I think we need to get that sooner than later because not only Mando on its own could kind of meander if it needed to. You could take a season, you could take a year or 2, 3 off, and then come back if you needed to. But if you're going to build this event and do it concurrently with other shows like Ahsoka, maybe Skeleton Crew, whatever, you got to get ready, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one, and build it up. It looks like they're really ramping up for that final event. And maybe, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised, and I would kind of love it if we didn't have a movie. Maybe this is the 2027 movie or 2029 movie even. Like they have a movie end to the whole Mandoverse saga.
Yeah, and then you got Feige and actually, I don't know if I want Taika doing that.
Well, maybe Feige's doing it though. Maybe Feige produces. He has great references. He knows what he's doing as far as big crossover. Work with Fab, so Feige helps produce that potentially. Fab would definitely be in charge. Fab Filoni would still probably end up running the goal, so to speak, the show at that point. But having Feige help out with that particular bigger movie kind of crossover thing, that could work. That could definitely work.
Johnny Favs is in London this week. I saw someone I follow on Instagram. Shout out to the guys at Star Wars Sessions. They posted a photo. They're doing this thing called The Forge, which is essentially the big Mandalorian exhibit that they had at Celebration last year, but they've just got it over here in London. Right. And him and Pedro are both here for it. I couldn't get tickets because they went like that.
Of course.
But yeah, he's over here at the minute. So I wonder if they're working something out.
Could be. It could be.
Maybe shooting at Pine. I know Lucasfilm like to shoot at Pinewood, so
Yeah, absolutely. While they're there, might as well get something in if you need to.
Mm.
All right. The other last bit of news, I do have one rumor I want to talk about briefly, but the last bit of news we had, Rosario Dawson was quoted on saying that Ahsoka, she believes Ahsoka was going to be releasing in the fall, which kind of throws a little cold water on us as far as it was kind of, again, nothing was ever announced, so we can't really say that it's nobody's fault. It's our fault for tweaking it out. But it was like, oh, we all think Ahsoka is going to come out in the summertime. We're thinking June, July. It made sense.
Mhm.
Manda would go for its season. Then we had a little break. We knew Skeleton Crew was supposed to be coming out in maybe November, December. But then she says maybe we were doing the fall, which maybe September, October. Is it part of the slowing down process that maybe things are getting a little pushback and they're giving us a little more time to breathe? I mean, things change all the time. Mandalorian was supposed to have a February 2023 release. Now it's in March.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Did Skeleton Crew get pushed back from December to maybe January or February? But I guess there's the Haunted Mansion, which has to go first. I guess that's part of it. I know that's part of the window she was put in there. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen because I know the Marvels was pushed. The TV series was pushed, and then so I don't. It's kind of be weird to see where it falls. At the same time, when I say this, when I'm talking all this news and everything else, actors specifically, this is no slight meant towards Rosario at all. But actors aren't in control of this thing, and it might be just something that she heard. It might be something that she is speculating about. Maybe she hasn't been given a time frame yet. Hell, Giancarlo Esposito at one point said that they thought the Mandalorian season 3 was coming in the summer of 2022 after they had just finished wrapping like the few days before that.
Yeah.
Is that the case? I mean, Ahsoka Rosario seems to know more about like the window. She mentions Haunted Mansion. She mentions specific windows of time. So maybe she does know a little bit more about what she's talking about, but I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
As long as they don't do what they did with Book of Boba Fett and give it to us in the last week of December and just be like, yeah, we said it was coming in 2023. We just met the very last week of 2023. That chappicked my ass when they did that.
Chappicked your ass when you did that.
That Bob chappicked my ass when they were like, oh yeah, Book of Boba Fett's coming this year, and then they put it right at the last bloody week.
Yeah, well, at least we know she's saying fall. So it still wouldn't be that big of a deal. It's not that huge of a deal to go from the summer to fall. I do want it sooner than later. That's the thing. I'm chomping in the bit. This is one of my most anticipated shows. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's not pushing it for a year or two. It's pushing it for maybe a couple months. Because I initially said July. That was my thought.
Yeah.
From various educated guessing. If it goes to September, I'll live. But we'll find out. We'll find out soon enough and probably get that news at Celebration. I think that's definitively. I think Ahsoka is going to be the big news piece of Celebration.
That'll be the last day because Rosario is there Sunday and Monday.
Right.
So I feel like that'll be the last day.
I think there's going to be a trailer.
Yep.
I think there's going to be definitively have like a release date at that point. I think they'll announce the release date when it's coming because this is like as far as Celebration goes, that's the next big thing. I mean, the Mandalorian season 3 finale will be pitched a little bit too, probably, because that won't be done until that. I don't believe it's what 8 episodes. Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be told. We talk about the finale of that, but that's the very next thing to drop outside of Visionaries, but season 2. But Visionaries is not a game-stopping closing event kind of thing.
Yeah, the only other thing I think it could be like maybe they do something with the Skeleton Crew because Skeleton Crew it's done.
Right. We should get. I think we're going to get information about Skeleton Crew. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a teaser of Skeleton Crew. This could be. I mean, I don't want to like work us all into a hype. Last time in Celebration, we worked ourselves into a hype, and we didn't really get a whole lot, especially of footage. So I don't want to like. That's always the danger we fall into. Oh my God, we could see we could see Skeleton Crew. We could see a teaser for the 2025, and we could like talk ourselves into this frenzy, and then get disappointed because that was never the plans, and that's our fault. That's not their fault. That's our fault because we worked ourselves up into a tizzy and started training our own expectations differently. So I always want to say, like to speculate responsibly, to quote Force Center, of course, our friends Ken Knapsack and Joe Scrimshaw, speculate responsibly. it's okay to speculate, and it's okay to go,
Mm.
we could get this, but don't let that turn everything else into a what a disappointment. We didn't get any of this. That's on us. I do think, though, I think Ahsoka, it's almost key to do Celebration. If you're going to have anything, it's Ahsoka, because that's the next thing. And Skeleton Crew, if we have things that are done, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a teaser or something, maybe a first look, maybe a sizzle reel or something to that effect. Maybe just an announcement of the cast alongside Jude Law, that kind of thing.
So that's what I was going to say. Jude Law, I know exactly which part of London he lives in. Not to sound stalkerish, but he lives exactly 38 minutes away from the XL Center.
Right. So if he's
come on, mate.
If he's not filming anything anywhere else, then there's no reason he shouldn't be there making an appearance for it. So I think that's an easy layup for us at that point. And I'd be excited about that. I'd be very, very excited about that. Okay, the last bit of quote unquote news is I read a couple of things on Twitter. This is off Star Wars News.net now, not even reported by Star Wars News.net. So that tells you what this is. So take this.
Now we're going into the depths.
Assault. We're going down deep. I take all the salt shakers you have and throw all the salt, take all those grains of salt. I found an article referenced on Twitter from Fandom Wire. I don't know anything about them. That might show my, I wish I knew what was good and was not. And they stated that Disney was reportedly working on Book of Boba Fett Season 2. Now, they framed it as, despite mixed reviews, Disney reportedly working on Book of Boba Fett 2, which means they have their own opinion on the show, I think. I mean, I can't say it's completely an opinion, because I think it's factual to say that Boba Fett was polarized. Book of Boba Fett was polarizing. There was some people liked it.
It's the despite part. It's like them saying, "Oh, despite this happening, despite it getting mixed reviews."
Right.
So they're saying, "Oh, even though it got mixed reviews, they're still doing a second season." I'm like, "Oh, whoa."
It does make me stop and think about what your angle is. I mean, the whole article was kind of, I don't want to say flawed, but didn't really have a whole lot of information. It just talked about, I read it quickly, it just talked about the Book of Boba Fett. It just mentioned, it did not get universal praise, did not get the response Disney would have counted on.
See what I mean?
Yeah, it's absolutely that. Even saying it does get worse as it goes on. One thing is, of course, but popular opinion says that the writing and characterization of Fett were underhanded by the production, to say the least. Yeah, this is not an article that's very clear. It's very clear on its own takes on the show. But besides all that, it does say that it was potentially fast tracked to write a second season, prepare for second season. Okay, let's take it away from the article. Speculate, take away the opinions on mixed reviews, whatever. I know it didn't hit for some people, and that's fine. Not everything's going to hit for everybody. Do you believe that it's possible that they are going to do a Book of Boba Fett 2? And would you want a Book of Boba Fett 2?
I mean, I don't think Tamara Morrison was half naked on the beach reading scripture or Shakespeare. I think he was, walking around, doing a haka, getting ready to do Book of Boba Fett 2. I think it is going to happen because Tamara has said he wants to do another.
Right.
And when Tamara Morrison says he wants to have another crack at Boba Fett, you just say, how much? How much money? How many zeros do we put on the check?
I think we could definitely see a Book of Boba Fett 2. I'd be happy with the Book of Boba Fett 2 because I like it.
Who says no more Boba Fett?
Agreed. I don't know. I really did love that show. I thought it took me a little bit to get into it. I'm not going to lie. It definitely changed my perspective on the character. But once you get past your initial expectations or initial, whatever's, it really is a wondrous look at a character and a world building story where you get to see so much of Tatooine, so much of the Tusken Raiders, so much interaction with people. I thought it was very, not only entertaining, but it definitely did a lot to develop a multitude of different things. And then you also get great action beats. You get to see Cobb Vanth in there again. You get to see Cad Bane in live action. You got to see a rousing adventure with Boba and Din fighting with and riding a Rancor. I mean, like,
when was the last time we had a holy shit moment like seeing Cad Bane in the distance and then slowly recognizing the hat? I was sitting there like, oh my God, they're gonna do it.
Right, exactly. It's so great. So, I mean, I would love to see it. I'm not gonna lie. Personally, I would love to see Boba Fett get off of Tatooine and go do some more adventures and stuff. But then at the same time, I think about it, wasn't that kind of what Mandalorian is to a degree? Like it'd be very similar to have like another Mandalorian fly into space. With that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Boba Fett in the Mandalorian. We're going to get all the Mandalorians together, and he's not a Mandalorian necessarily, but he's wearing the armor. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a call up to the big leagues. They had a great ending together. So very interesting stuff going on. I don't know if it's happening. I think they're probably exploring a development, and they're going to see what they want to do and see if it matches up with where they're going story wise, and does it beat out something else that they're probably working on. They're looking at a couple of different things. So pre-production, I wouldn't be surprised. Could it maybe not see the light of day? Could it be maybe folded into Mando season 3 and 4, or maybe Mando a different part of the Mandoverse potentially? But either way, I thought it important to at least touch base on it and have that conversation. But alrighty, that's it for the news this week. Let's get into this week's episode of the Bad Batch, the 10th episode, season 2, episode called Retrieval. Of course, part 2 of a two-parter. Unless we do this a little differently on Holy Snokes, instead of just going beat by beat, we have these segments. We just go through our run of segments, and at the end, we just kind of patch up everything we've missed. But I figure it's a nice, interesting way to break down a show. And let's just get right into it. The first segment that we always go with here on Holy Snokes.
Aye.
It is Hondo Watch 2023.
Who wants to see Hondo? Talk to me.
Quite simply, did we get an appearance in Holy Snokes Patreon in this episode, an episode of Bad Batch 2023? And the answer, my friends,
Insolence! We are pirates! We don't even know what that means!
no. No, we do not. Hunter does not appear.
And I'm just like, because I always find roles that Hondo could fit into. I mean, who else is better to exploit child labor in Star Wars than Hondo Ohnaka? Who is better to exploit child labor and, like, you know, keep all the profits for himself other than Hondo?
When will our long international nightmare end? We have to see him at some point, but it is not this episode.
It's very vexing because I see roles taken by other people that I'm just like, dude, why didn't you put him there? He could have been that character.
I mean, I'm all for getting new characters added to the Star Wars lore. I love seeing new characters put to play, but it's been too long. It's been too long. Hear me, Dave. You're my only hope.
It's just, I don't want to. I see Hondo everywhere. I see him on the face of every child, on the smile of every baby. It's got to happen at some point. It has to. It
will. We're crossing our fingers. It's going to happen soon. And of course, starting next week, we have 2 times the chances of Hondo appearing in Bad Batch and Mandalorian.
Yes. We get to double our chances. Yes.
Double our chances. I like those odds.
Never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds.
Anyway.
I didn't know you had that clip.
I did. Anyway, let's get into our very, very next segment. We call this one Mission Briefing.
What do you need, Rex? Any chance I could use you for a mission?
And this is where we give you a short breakdown of what happened this episode. I'll start taking over by, we ended the last episode. The Bad Batch had their ship stolen. They made their way to an abandoned spaceport. They contacted Sid saying they needed help to get out because they couldn't track down. They couldn't get to the Marauder because Marauder, as far as they knew, was halfway across the galaxy as far as they knew. They had no real food, no real supplies. And Sid's like, well, I'll get there when I get there. So here we are. We begin the episode where they're trying to make things work. They're trying to scavenge things. They're trying to build a speeder out of a hunk of junk, a skiff out of a hunk of junk, so they can make it to the other side of the plains or whatever, where there's another settlement or something they can possibly get some more rations from, maybe get some contact information, maybe even find a way to off the heap of rock that they are on. And Omega comes up with a brilliant idea that she can maybe not track the ship down, the transponder, but she could track our friend Gonki. Yes, Gonki was not forgotten. He was there. He was safe, and you could actually track where Gonki was. And even Tech was like, "That's pretty ingenious. I didn't even think of that." Tracks him down, and we find our thief has taken the Marauder not very far, just across. So that's the very same settlement, turning it over to shall we say, a thug-like creature with who is an awful creature who is exploiting children in their minds. Very much a lot of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom vibes I got from this one a little bit.
Shout out Mike Forster from the Mom and Pie podcast. You are the second person who has said that today.
Oh,
Me
yeah?
and him, we have both talked about it, and you have both mentioned Temple of Doom. So I wonder why I didn't see it at first. When he said it, I was just like, huh, maybe. But now you're saying it as well. I'm like, huh, maybe I need to go back and rewatch Temple of Doom.
It's just the idea of their minds. There's kids working the mines and this big ass like thug that's in charge. We finally meet our young thief, who we thought might have been Hondo last time. Teased us a little bit.
I
He's
thought
not.
it was Boba.
The young kid. Yeah, that was Boba. That's true. He actually looked a lot like Boba, even with the helmet off. So he's just trying to make his way in this cruel world. He's handing over a ship. The Bad Batch make it to the time, and they have to use their kinship, with this forced kinship with the thief, that they track down and get their ship back. And while they're there, like maybe do some good and free these children from their exploitation, so to speak. And they do a good job of it, as they always do. And I will say, I'm going to get to this in a little bit. Actually, and get to this one of our last segments. I watched this episode twice. And the first time I didn't see a lot in the episode. But the second time I kind of watched it, especially the ending part again, and I realized that this could be, whether you like it or not as a material, whether you're entertained by it or not as a material, but it could be the most important episode of Bad Batch. I'm saying a lot.
Claim, sir.
It's a tease.
Bold claim.
It's a tease. It's going to be a tease, but it is what it is. All right, let's move on to our next segment. This one we call The Bachelor.
I was hoping for the whole squad, but you'll do.
This is simply the segment where we choose our favorite character of the week. It could be a bachelor, could be, in this case, a kid. It could be a slime ball. It could be a droid. Matty, who is your bachelor of the week?
I see that. To me, this week, none of them really had a really standout showing, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I think they actually worked really well as a team. In this one, they weren't bickering. They were just like, right, we got to go get our ship back. They worked really well as a cohesive unit. So I'm giving it first time nomination, first time win to Gonki, because without him, they do not get the Marauder back. Without him, they do not find their way home. Sid is now probably on her way to the planet. She's going to get there and find that they've cleared off already. But yeah, I'm giving it to Gonki, because without Gonki, they don't find the ship.
Gonki, first time recipient of the Bachelor of the Week from Matty's. I can't disagree with anything you just said. Gonki had some good moments in this episode, and kind of like R2 saves the day. Gonki kind of had a hand in the saving of this day. That's not a bad choice.
There's even a little bit where like they're talking about scrapping the ship. You can hear him kind of going, uh-oh. I was just like, that's great.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. All right, for my Bachelor of the Week, I did go a little, I don't know, maybe predictable to a degree. I did pick a Bachelor. I did consider Benny Barrow, our thief, as we found out his name was Benny, because he was kind of a cool character to find out. He was this like character you kind of end up rooting for. Better version, I would say, than the character who I did not like back in the Rebels days, the Iron Squadron.
Oh,
Matt, whatever. I think he kind of like seemed like he was in that vibe, but I think he was a better version of that character, to be completely honest. I do want to see more of him. I would like to see him, like what happens to him a little bit, but I'm going to give it instead, once again, to Tech.
Ooh.
Tech had a few of his great unintentional comedic moments, which weren't very many this time. It wasn't a very funny
No.
haha episode, but it was more because of the ending of the episode, and it showed how he. It really shows after the last episode with his little tiff with Omega and his making up with Omega, um, and us getting a little more inside his head. It was interesting watching this week's episode to see if that carried over a little, and it did. We saw him connect a little bit better than he ever had before. It seems like he's making those connections just a touch easier, just a touch more, and it really kind of hit home to me the way it's going down. He really, especially because without Echo being around, I think Tech's got to fill Echo's place as far as relationship with Omega goes. I mean, Omega has the big, fun, goofy brother in Wrecker. He's always the one, but he's his own thing. That's the fun time, the very, big overall teddy bear kind of thing. He's a protective one. You have Hunter, who's the real father figure. He's the protective one. He's the one who's going to guide you the right way, teach you what's right and wrong. Tech is going to be the kind of guy who's that in between, where he's like the older brother. He guided her. He's there for her in a different capacity than Hunter can be. And he's seeing how Echo used to be that way. Now he's kind of trying to fill that gap in the best way he can, despite his social anxiety. Anxiety is his social faux pas. Is not quite used to dealing with people in that fashion. He's too real. He's too straightforward. But yeah, that's what I'm going for. And I'm going to lead this right into our next segment, which is I Spec.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
And I'm using this transition, so to speak, because this is our favorite line from the show, our favorite piece of dialogue from the show, and it fits in very succinctly from my declaring Tech my bad batcher of the week, because my favorite line is from Tech this week. And one of the reasons why it's my favorite, he's my favorite batcher of the week. It was a quote where at the end of the episode, Omega stops for a second, and she's like very obviously not sad, but she's definitely contemplative on things. And Tech comes up and he goes, "What's wrong?" And first of all, that's a big statement in and of itself. Him going in there and going, he's noticing her feelings and going, "All right, talk to me. What's up?" And she basically says, "There's like a lot going on in the Empire, and there's also all these little people, little evils out there. People like Mako who are going to be taking over, and there's just so many people doing awful things, whatever." That's a paraphrase, and he comes back with a quote, and it basically affirms it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. There is, and says, "However, there are many like us out there as well, and that is something." Very reminiscent to me of Lando Calrissian in Rise of Skywalker. Yes, but there are more of us, Poe. There are more of us. It's that kind of yes, you're right, but don't give up. There are people like us out there fighting as well. We're not alone out there. And when we come together, we can do the right thing, and we can be a force to be reckoned with. It's something Omega needed to hear at that time, and really kind of need to solidify her with that. So I loved the line. I loved it specifically coming from Tech, because that was a very Echo line. And this is where Tech has to kind of fill in that Echo gap, so to speak.
Yeah.
So. All right, Matty. What about you? What's your
Mine was that is I thought about that line, but I was like, nah, PLD is going to be able to I had a feeling you were going to pick that one, and I had a feeling that you would be able to flesh it out more eloquently than I could. So I went with just Hunter saying, "That's our defective power droid." When the kid's there and he's working on Gonki, and he's like, "Maybe I should just sell you for parts. You're useless to me." And I'm just like, "That's our defective power droid." It just shows that he is so invested in the family unit to the point even the droid, it's like, "Hey man, you mess with our droid, you mess with us too." That's our defective power droid.
I love that. I love that. You're absolutely right. The best thing about Star Wars, not the best thing, but one of the very cool things about Star Wars, it's a repeating segment throughout in every media, every series, whatever, is the treatment of droids in the galaxy.
Never underestimate a droid.
Never underestimate a droid. Exactly. We have the characters like R2, Anakin, committing to R2 while Obi-Wan saying, "You can leave him, he's just a droid." You have L3's relationship with Lando and how some people don't like what Lando did to her, and then she became part of the Falcon. You have K2. You have Chopper with the Rebels. Some people
B2.
treat the droids
B2
B2 as well. B2 Emo. We have these creatures like a lot of people. Some people will say they're just droids, and there's people like Hunter, people like Anakin, people like like Hera. They love these droids. The droids are just as much part of them as anybody else's. And I love seeing that kind of repeated because how it's kind of like the saying in like the real world, whereas you can tell a man's mental by how he treats his animals, or how he treats his or how he treats those lesser than him, or whatever. Same thing here. You can tell who a good person is depending on how they treat their droid. You don't have to treat your droid. Their politeness, it's a machine, but to them it's more than a machine, like a family. Gonki is part of that family, and Hunter's going to defend him.
He's more man now than machine.
Absolutely. Alrighty, let's move on to our next segment. We call this one "Put That in Your Holocron and Snoke It."
Do you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
All right, this is the segment where we take a look at something deeper. We take something inspires us to go, we want to look a little bit more to what's going on here. Give me some more information about this. And I'll be honest with you, I struggled a little bit with this week because there's not a whole lot. A lot of times we have Easter egg drops. I want to know more about that. I want to know more about the ancients. I want to know more about this riot racing thing. Where's the Boba and this kind of all those things like this. This one is pretty much a straightforward episode, but it made me think about something. Mako's mind. They mentioned it as the Techno Union used to be there. Now the Techno Union, ever since the war is over, Techno Union's gone. We know that Techno Union was kind of dissolved and formed into the Empire. I'm kind of curious to touch base. I don't think we need series devoted to it, but maybe let's touch in on some of the other former separatist organizations, the Trade Federation, the Commerce Guild, the Corporate Alliance. I mean, we got the Banking Clan in the Senate, obviously. You see things like that. Where are some of these other places now? We know that the Commerce Guild is still operational in the term in Rebels time. Because I remember correctly, Sato tries to fake his way through an Imperial blockade by saying he's part of the Commerce Guild or maybe the Corporate Alliance, one of the two. Either way, I want to know more about what the former separatists are doing. Because we've seen the separatists bombed out. Obviously, Sereno was bombed out. Camino bombed out. Are any of them still active? How have they changed since then? I mean, just like the underworld, the Pikes and everything else, we've seen them a little bit after. Where are we? Because we're mostly concentrated on where the Empire is and where the general population is and where the Republic is, or the Rebellion is at this point. Touch base on all those other things. Big, broader piece of the galaxy.
Yeah, I really think that. Because you don't think of you think the Techno Union and things like that would just kind of collapse and join in with the Empire,
right?
But now we're slowly learning as we go that Palpatine was just no, you're done. Yeah. I own the banks now. You're useless to me. With as I keep saying, he keeps wiping the chessboard clean
as he does,
and I didn't even consider that. I think my one would be, and like you, I was having a bit of a hard time with this one because I was just what do I want to see more of? Because we've already seen quite a bit of what happened in this episode, but there is a really real world implication in this episode that I didn't think of until I had a conversation with someone earlier today.
Okay.
And it was that there are places in the world where people have to fight and work their hands to the bone just to get a scrap of food. There are oppressive regimes out there that people have to struggle to just get, the scene where Mako was going to give the kid the water and then he drank it and then gave the dregs of what was left.
Yeah.
That's a very real world thing. There 100%. Are places where things like that happen. And just seeing these little glimpses of rebellion come from these kids. I want to see more of that because I think that's a very real world message that that cycle can be broken. Those regimes can be broken. It's a really powerful message, and I didn't think about it until someone earlier made me, because I was like, dude, I don't know what I took from this episode. I don't know what I want to see more of going forward. And they said, here's what I took from it.
Yeah.
Here's where my life experience comes into this. So it goes into that thing of like, be very, very careful what you call filler. Yeah, I hate using that word, but be very, very careful what you criticize, because one man's trash could be another man's treasure. That whole thing, like, as we say every week, someone could relate to it in a way that we don't necessarily understand. And I got a big shock, like, whoa, I didn't even think of that. But now I've had that conversation, it's opened my mind up more. So,
I gotta say, maybe that's what says so many about Star Wars fans. I feel like the ones who really take things into their heart and watch these things, it's such a great vehicle, even more than any other fandom. And that might be GB being a little biased because I'm part of this fandom, and this is my fandom. Star Wars fans have a way of looking at something and having a conversation and getting so much out of something that might even not even be intended by Lucasfilm or the story group. Because we're also in touch with the same world, same universe, same galaxy, that we really make the best out of the art. We we ingest this art in every which way. We twist it around ourselves. We enter in our own experiences. We get other people's experience. We go, I see this in a different fashion now. And it helps you accept things in the real world, or maybe shines a light on things you don't think about in the real world. And you go, okay, I see that more now. I understand things more. I think it's a beautiful thing. I really do. Very happy. And again, this might happen in other fandoms. I just don't know, because I'm not as part of it. Star Wars is one of the ones, because it's so huge and so vast. There's just so many entry points into it. So yeah, I don't know. I like it. I like what you say, and I appreciate that very much. Okay, let's move on then to our next segment. This is a new segment that we've introduced here. We've got 2 new segments this week that are going to become part of our weekly venture. Instead of just going right to parsecs out of 11, we're going to seen a lot of action.
A lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
And this is quite simply our favorite action beat of the episode. Every episode has some action beats. Every scene has some comedic moments. We're going to touch base on them. Our favorite action beat, I want to start, if you don't mind, because I've been jumping about saying this. One of my favorite action beats in the entire episode comes from the growth of characters. It's the growth of the team. It's on the bridge, and the robot working for Mako is about to throw Omega off. And there's this moment where Hunter gets his grappling hook out. They share that moment, that thought of complete trust in each other. They both know what's coming down. This is not like a desperate attempt. They're like, you see this? I see this. You see what I'm going to do, right? I see what you're going to do. And they lead into it. And she leans back as a droid, completely sacrificing herself, as you would. It looks like she's sacrificing herself. She's going to jump off into this lava pit with it, take out the droid with her, because she knows Hunter's shooting up there, swinging in and grabbing her and putting her back on top. It's not even just the action itself about it, but it's that moment of a familial, wordless conversation they had into the action beat. Great adventure. Very Indiana Jones like moment to me too, with the bridge and everything, like the whip grabbing it and throwing it around. Great adventure. Yeah. I loved it so much. I love seeing Omega fitting that much into the team now.
Yeah, I thought that was a really great one, especially like Omega being like, you look at Omega, you think defenseless kid.
Right.
She does a full like Jeff Hardy moonsault off of that thing, holding onto the robot as he's just like looking at him. He's just like, all right, I'm going for it. Does like a full on Jeff Hardy moonsault, comes falling down, and then just like, Hunter, you better grab me. Like, I trust you. You better be there to grab me. Yeah, that I thought that was an awesome moment, because I was watching it and I was just like, she's not, no way. And then she went and did it, and like she pulled the droid down with her. I was like, holy crap.
I love it. Love it so much. How about you? What was your favorite action beat?
See, I'm torn between 2.
Okay.
I'll give a credible honorable mention to, there was the moment where the droid's like holding Omega and Hunter's looking, and I'm like, he can't make that shot from there.
Right.
And I was thinking, is this where Crosshair shows up?
Oh, wow.
Because they can't make the shot on the bridge. he can't make the shot from down there. Is there going to be like a random blaster bolt come from out of nowhere? And it hit the droid. Didn't happen. Mine would be when this is a stroke of genius. I can't even believe I came up with this nickname. Ethan Hunter does the Mission Impossible 2 dive down the chute. Even to the point where the music slowly becomes fairly Mission Impossible-esque, where it goes like dun dun, like it's very subtle, but if you listen clearly enough, you can hear there is very like Mission Impossible in there, like
That's
a lot
awesome.
of the same phrasing and everything. And he gets down to the point, and I don't know if you remember this bit in MI2, when he gets just above the window, and the guard kind of like looks up out the window, and he's like hanging there waiting. He was just like holding on, waiting, and the droid hadn't turned around yet. I feel like that was very much the same moment. So I feel like someone maybe watched Mission Impossible 2 before writing that, and they were just like, okay, yeah, let's just do this. So
I do remember that. I didn't think about that until you mentioned it now, but now I completely can say it in my head. I can't get it out. Good call.
So I will now be referring to Hunter as Ethan Hunter.
Ethan Hunter. I like that. Alrighty, then let's move on to our next bit, our next new bit. This one, laugh it up, Fuzzball.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Laugh it up, Fuzzball.
All right, this is our comedy segment. Which is your favorite comic moment? Because Star Wars always has a bit of humor, even the most dour episodes have little touches here and there. This episode was, I find it a little amusing that we chose this episode to debut this on, because this was one of the least comedic episodes we've seen.
Really?
I thought it was one of the least compared to some of the others.
Okay.
But I did have one line specifically that I did like that just, it's Wrecker to a T. Right at the beginning. Like, oh, I'm just so starving. Hunter's like, well, we told you to stop your rations. It had this like baby moment.
It's hot.
Well,
I'm bored. I'm hungry.
Well, I got hungry. I'm like, Wrecker, you big oaf. You big toddler. Big toddler that can carry a tank gun, but you're a big toddler nonetheless. I love Wrecker's character, and he always never fails to make me laugh as I'm wearing up. That's my favorite comedic moment of this episode.
Mine's actually a Wrecker moment as well, and it's right at the end when he sees Gonki and he lifts Gonki up and gives Gonki a bear hug, and you just see Gonki's little legs like dangling underneath Wrecker. I was like, that's hilarious. He's just picked up this Gonk droid and he's like hugging it, and the droid's like, let me go, let me go, let me go.
That's one of my favorite moments too. I love that. Wrecker's always a great person for a little bit of comic relief. He's always I mean, if Tech is our unintentional comedian, I think Wrecker has his own bits of unintentional comedy. It's not his intending to be funny, but he's definitely funny while doing it. All right, let's move on to our next segment. We call this one Parsecs. How many parsecs out of 11? Because we always go to 11 here on PLD Projects.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
That's right, less than 12, 11. We do 11 on PLD Projects. This is where we rate it. We will give the show a rating. I will give this one, I will say right off the bat, I hate giving this an episode a number because it's going to be lower. It's definitely not my favorite episode of the season, and that's okay. I think it's important to be honest about things, and not everything hits. I did appreciate it more the second time when I watched it the second time for the show. I'm going to give it a 6.5. I think it's a fun episode. It's not what I would rewatch all the time. But like I said, I still have the one bit of segment to come where I'm talking about. I hear it's weird. Earlier this show, I said this is one of the most important episodes of perhaps the entire run. Yet I only give it a 6.5. Because there's a difference in sometimes what you want to see and what you need to see. So 6.5 out of 11 for me. What about you, Matty?
I mean, mine's similar. I gave it a 7. It's fun. It's fun. And like going back to what I said on Class Action yesterday, like it's okay to have fun.
Yes.
Things can just be fun. Whether we do find a deepening meaning or not, something can just be fun.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to our final segment. We call this one Force Vision.
Premonitions?
Okay. For me, this is. Do you want to start?
No, I've been waiting for this all fucking episode. Get to it.
Okay. Now, Star Wars has always seemingly been about, oppression and power and the fighting of evil, good versus evil. And we're always about the adventure of the rebellion, trying to shake off the Empire, the Republic, trying to shake off the Sith Lord, that kind of thing. It's always this big, epic moment. And we've seen that with Bad Batch as well. We had a lot of the clone aspect of it, but still, Rex joining the rebellion and getting the crew involved. I think that this episode showed the future of the Bad Batch as a group in every way possible. I think a lot of people have talked about, Echo left, went to join Rex because that was his mission. The Bad Batch's mission is not going to be a part of the rebellion. Not going to be a rebellion. The Bad Batch, the whole ending of the segment where Omega says there's a big evil out there. There's a lot of little evils out there. And Tech said it in his line. However, there are many like us out there, and that's something. It's going to be the Bad Batch's lot in life, I believe. At the end of the Bad Batch, they are not going to join the rebellion.
A-Team.
They are going to be the A-Team. They are going to be going around fighting the little fights, fighting the little evils. They'll let the rebellion take care of the big evils. The Bad Batch is going to be those ones that you don't hear about. The little heroes you don't hear about, but they're so necessary to life, that touch so many lives, help out so many people, and you never hear anything about them. And you hear that there's a Bad Batch, a crew that came in here, there was some violence. I don't know what happened, but they did help out people, be able to live their lives in a righteous way, keep themselves protected. And I think that's the end game there. And I think a lot of people aren't going to like that because a lot of people want the big epic story. They want the big, wow, how does the Bad Batch fight off Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader? And what do they do as far as the Death Star? Where are they for that? Where are they for the Battle of Endor? Why aren't they there? What are they doing? They're out helping real people. I think that's the entire point of the Bad Batch. You may not like it. It may not be your cup of tea. You may not want this story. You may want the epic side of things. But I think you have to accept it. And I kind of like it. I sat in it and I said, you know what? Sometimes this stuff is, not even sometimes, this is just as important as Luke Skywalker flying to the Death Star and destroying the Death Star. Just as important to Benny, to the Bennings of the world out there, to the Drakes of the world out there. There's always people like Mako out there. These ones that are not going to ever be on the target of the rebellion. The rebellion is never going to see these people, help these people out. The Bad Batch will. And that's what makes them important. A cog in the universe. That's the whole. So all of a sudden, when you look back at the end of this episode, this is the episode where it's showcased. This is the heart of who the Bad Batch is.
Can we just end the episode now? Like, I feel like I'm just gonna poop that. Dude, that was really powerful.
Thank you. I think that.
Yeah, that's because they've always been the black sheep. When you've had Cody and Rex fighting the big battles, the Bad Batch show up when they're needed. They don't show up when they're wanted. They're not, they don't go out with the 501st. They don't go out with all these big regiments. No, they're by themselves. But it's always, hey guys, can you come help us out? They've always been there when they're needed, not when they're told to be. So, yeah,
it's the marriage. Echo, it's been the whole thing from season 1, even through most of season 2. Echo and Hunter fighting over things. Echo saying we need to do more, and Hunter saying no, that's not what we're here for. We're here to help protect our family. Hunter's been dragged a little bit more into it. Echo had to leave because that's what Echo is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Hunter is leading the Bad Batch the way he sees fit, and I think Omega's starting to see that too. Omega's starting to see it's the little people. We got to take care of the little people. So,
yeah. I mean, my one's real simple.
That's okay. Simple is good sometimes.
Mine's real simple. Where the hell is Crosshair? It's been 6 episodes now, and we haven't seen him. Haven't heard his name. Where the hell is he? What is he doing? It's not a case of just like, is he safe? Is he all right? It's not a case of that anymore. It's just like, where the fuck is he?
I have a theory.
What?
I thought about this because I was in your shoes. Oh, I was in your shoes a bit ago. We haven't seen him since the Solitary Clone, right? That the big episode with Cody, right? Although we've seen him since then, correct? Right? Okay. I think that's been done on purpose. I think that's not just a case of, oh, it doesn't fit the story. I think they're pulling him off screen because, like, even there's even times where he should have been there. Like, you think about the 2 episodes
Where
on
are you
Coruscant.
going with this?
He should have been there. He did 2 episodes on Coruscant. That should have been him, right? It should have been the assassin. Because I think they're bringing him back in order to build our anticipation for his return. And when he does return, it's going to be a big moment. And I have the feeling it's going to be a redemptive moment. Right now, because I think we left him on Camino. During Camino, he had some real moments of come to Jesus moments, so to speak, where he had a confrontation with Hunter. He had to really fight with himself. He still was like, no, I made my choice. I'm with the Empire. Yada yada yada. But he had that regret. He still looked like he regret some things about it. He still had made mention of the Brotherhood. We mentioned of being brothers, and it was reinforced by Omega at the end. Omega turned to it. He's like, What do you want? They're still your brothers. No, you're still my brother too. And he kind of had this look. He's like, and the next time we see him is Solitary Clone. The whole thing with Cody. And at the end, we have that callous moment where he's out there. I think he's slowly coming. I don't think we're going to see a lot of that on screen. Not going to see his journey on screen. We're just going to see him come back at the end of the day and be redemptive and help out the Bad Batch. That's my thought. We have an opening slot now because Echo's gone.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this one had the perfect moment to do it when, the Tech and Wrecker couldn't make the shot from the bridge. Hunter couldn't make it. I was thinking, like, this is the time. This is when, like, we find out Crosshair's been tracking them.
Right.
And, like, Crosshair tracked them through Gonki or something. He comes in and just, like, shoots the droid and is just like, how did you lose the Marauder? That kind of thing. And I was just like, that's the moment I was waiting for. That would have been a huge moment. But now I'm just like, because I thought you were going to say, I don't know why I thought you were going to say this. I thought you were saying that, like, he either got imprisoned or killed off screen.
Oh, definitely killed.
I was just like, the thing is, I wouldn't have been surprised if they did.
Huh?
I wouldn't have been shocked if they did, like, kill him off screen and they find out that the grandpa had Crosshair killed or something and they go to get him. Like, it wouldn't have shocked me. But yeah, I do believe, I think the same. He's gonna maybe in that. I think there's one episode. I think it's called like The Outpost or something.
Yeah,
it's in like a couple weeks time.
Yeah, I've heard like mini spoiler. I don't think this is doing anything, but if you don't like pause, jump ahead 5 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I've heard that he doesn't appear again for a couple of. He still doesn't appear until maybe the 12th episode potentially.
Yeah.
Which is it's not bad. I mean, one more week without him, then he's back. But then he was a very important part of the rest of the season.
Okay,
that's what I've heard. I haven't looked for spoilers. I don't want to give spoilers out. I don't think that's pretty minor. I think he's got to come back at some point. He's got to have some impact on the crew. So that's a big thing. And to have at the end of the season, that makes sense. I just want to say, so if you're looking forward to it, that's what you should look forward to. Okay. And we're back. I would say also, one other pitch I want to make about that is that I wonder, because I watched this again, like I said, I've mentioned it a couple of times, and I'm rewatching with my son. And my son and I just went through the Camino episode and everything else. And that was that big moment in Camino where they're like, oh, it's your inhibitor chip. And he's like, no, I had that taken out a long time ago. I think he was lying.
I think it was too.
Because we know we saw they intensified it. Tarkin intensified it. We never saw it get taken out. They looked like Hunter looked at the scar, but that's why they intensified it. You still see a scar there, like it was taken out, but it was really just intensified. I wonder. And he had a couple times where he has the headache. He's like, he still has the headaches here and there. He kept rubbing his head a few times. He's fighting it still. I think it's going to play. I think he's listening to Omega at this point, even though he doesn't want to. I think he's not done anything because he's doing it to spite Omega at this point. But I think after Solitary Clone, everything else, he's kind of like, I wonder if there's something to this. Let me get this chip removed and see how I really feel.
Yeah.
And so we're going to come back and be like, I'm sorry. I lied. You were right. Inhibitor chip was doing something to me or something like that. I don't know. Just a thought.
Because I always thought that it could be like where he got blasted right up close by a Star Destroyer engine. That could have like fried it a bit and been like caused it to go a bit haywire. But yeah.
Maybe. Well, a lot in play. Alrighty, that is it for today. I believe you have anything more about this episode that you would like to touch base on? Anything else?
No, sir. I'm good to go.
Well, we do have an important announcement of sorts to make. Next week, starting next week, you will get twice the Holy Snokes episodes, two times. We will have an episode on Wednesdays, just like normal. We'll also have an episode on Thursdays. And that will run through the month of March because we are going to be covering The Mandalorian Season 3 episodes 1 through 4. But at the same time, we're going to be covering the end run of The Bad Batch. So we'll have 2 episodes per week. We didn't want to try to tackle both Mandalorian and Bad Batch reviews on one show. We want to make sure we give both shows their due. So every Wednesday for March, I believe we'll be tackling The Mandalorian. And we'll be doing our news bets as usual. We'll touch base on news that we got for the week. And Thursday might be a little bit of a shorter episode. It'll be just because there probably won't be any big news between Wednesday and Thursday. If there is, we'll cover that. Otherwise, though, we'll just be doing a Bad Batch watcher. So maybe 1.5. I would take 1.5 episodes a week, but extra content at least through March, leading us up into Celebration and that coverage we're going to have for Celebration. But yeah, that's going to do it today, I guess. Where can the folks find you, Matty?
You can find me on Twitter at Matty Gunner, Instagram Matty_Gunner. You can find my band Mourner, Mourner, on all DSPs. We have a new song dropping April 7th. I don't think I've released the title, but if I haven't, I'll do that soon. You can find me here every other Tuesday for Class Action with PLD and Richard Eric Jarvie. And you can find me here every Wednesday and Thursday now for Holy Snokes. Going forward for a little bit. We're doing both of the Mando show. I'm gutted it's not on Monday. Then we could have called it just another Mando Monday. But every Monday and Friday on the Wild Jones Podcast Network for the ONU MMA show.
Excellent. And also, you're going to be doing some new content this month.
Projects. Next week, I'm going to be doing in the build up for Creed 3. I'm going to be looking at Creed versus Conlan from Creed 1 and Creed versus Drago 2 from Creed 2. Fight scenes in there, and going to be breaking them down because they're a lot more realistic than the Rocky fights. So I'm going to be looking at, as someone who has competed, I have a little bit of a unique looking at these things and how they're shot. So,
well, fun extra content for us. Appreciate that, Matty, of course. You can find me at Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. You can find me. I have 4 podcasts I do on this channel and my associated channel. I do Class Action every other Tuesday now, bi-weekly, every other Tuesday with Matty and Richard Eric Jarvie. We do 2 Mediocre White Dudes on film, myself and PJ Campbell. The alternate week where we go through episodes. Next week, where we're doing Lethal Weapon 3, so that should be a lot of fun. Holy Snokes every Wednesday, and then Wednesday and Thursday for the month of March. And then also jump over to PLD Projects Crown Jewels, which I'm having a dedicated YouTube page just for my Crown Jewels Queen show. I want to separate my movie and films with my music content. It will also have some bonus content on there. I did a remix of Queen's Don't Stop Me Now that I put on that channel already. Other remixes I've done, just so you know, I'm not a great technical remixer. I'm definitely more of an idea guy than I am an execution guy, but the idea is there and you'll like it. I might put some of my music on there.
What's the next song that you're going to be doing for Queen?
For Crown Jewels this week, we are doing She Makes Me, Stormtrooper in Stilettos.
Okay, yeah.
A little Star Wars reference. Not really, because it actually came out 3 years before Star Wars, but I consider it a Star Wars reference for myself. And that's how you project art, that's how you digest art, I should say. Beyond that, you can also find me every Tuesday now, and starting in March, I'll be producing at least behind the scenes and maybe on screen at times for SEN Live, or for the Christian Harloff Network and Christian Harloff channel, the big thing. Big time. That's
Mr. Big Time.
Yeah, something like that. And I also produce every once in a while for Action Industries when they are around to do stuff. Finally, PLD Projects has its own Patreon, patreon.com/PLD Projects. Please feel free to hit us up there. I've got some great patrons like Matthew Kearns, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, John Lestrina. All the rest of you, could not do it without you. Love you guys so much. You really do appreciate you there. And beyond that, 2 other podcasts coming out. Irregular podcasts, as I call them, because they're not going to be weekly. They're going to be when I get them done. First of all, we got the Harristons, where I'll be going through every IMDb credit of Ed Harris. And I also have a new podcast I'm going to be doing called The Review, where myself and Lego, Legoland from...
Lego's joining you.
She is
That's
joining
awesome.
me. We're going to be doing a watch through of V, the 1983 miniseries, and the whole franchise from there on. This is the 40th anniversary of that episode, and I'll let it out here now. I will have a soft launch of that show in a couple of weeks. I have a interview coming with a wonderful person. I had a great talk, 45-minute conversation with the great Kenneth Johnson, who you know as not only the original writer, creator, and director of the original V, the miniseries, but you also know him as the man who basically started off a successful run of Marvel on the screen. He was the creator and developer of the Incredible Hulk TV series starring Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. And he's also done work on Alien Nation, Steel, Short Circuit 2, a bunch of stuff. He's a good guy. Great talk, great conversation.
I haven't watched that Hulk show in so long. The one with Lou Ferrigno. I haven't watched that in so damn long.
So good, so good. Some interesting stories he has about Hulk as well as we did. Of course, most of it was on the great conversation to have. I'll be putting that up in a couple of weeks to have a soft launch of the review. So hopefully you stick around for me there. And finally, last but not least, if this is your first time here and you've made it all the way through here, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Join us here. Join us on a regular basis. We're trying to get our subs up to at least 500. That's our modest goal. And we've been moving in the right direction. Slowed down a little bit. I'm hoping we can pick it up again soon. I mean, I don't do it for the subs, but it's nice to know that more people are joining us and having the same conversations that we are and enjoying our company. So, but that's it for now. Stay tuned until next week, where we do 2 Star Wars episodes, more Star Wars time with Matty Gunner. I love it. I can't wait.
Let's do it.
May the Force be with you. Always.